Instead of one fish, I did multiple ones just to show you. You don't have to do multiple fish. The bare minimum is one fish. That's all you need to do. But like I showed last time, you can duplicate it or import it several times. This is not duplicated. I just went through and imported, and then I would grab my next fish and import them in here, and then I would have another fish inside that group. So what we want to do is we want to create a school of fish, not just this one fish, okay, or the one fish moving around. Because very easily I could grab one fish and animate this one fish moving around, and he would do what he needs to do, but what if I want 50 fish or 100 fish? I want to be able to do that very easily. So I'm going to jump to a new scene. Maybe I will. There we go. And I'm going to create it here. So the way that it works is we're going to use end particles to do that. So if you remember Finding Nemo, this was used a whole lot in Finding Nemo because they had loads and loads of fish. Loads of fish. And in order for anything to work correctly, they had to make sure that they all collided with each other and were dynamic and would kind of recognize each other. So we're going to make an emitter, okay? And the emitter is where the fish are going to come out of. So all of the settings here you can set afterwards, so I'm just going to leave it at the default and then change things later. I get three things when we do this. I get an emitter, I get an end particle, and then I get a nucleus, okay? The emitter is where the fish come out of. I'm going to change this from an omni to a volume, okay? Instead of the fish coming out of one dot and dispersing, I want them to have like basically like a cave or an opening that they could all swim out of. The arrows at the center of this is the direction that all of those particles, eventually all the fish, are going to be coming out of. Because we want the fish to go in one direction, I don't want them to disperse like that. I want them to go in one direction. So I'm going to scroll down to where we see away from center and away from axis and put those to 0. Then if I do a long axis, and let's say I set this to 10, then I have one direction that's going straight up. Then I can just rotate this, and then I could just and I'm also going to flatten this out, just so the fish don't come out of a huge area. They come out of a smaller area. It's a little easier to control. Now, instead of 1 that was here, I typed in 10. This is also the speed that the fish are going to come out. If your fish are huge, you don't want them to be zipping along super quick, okay? So you have to find that sweet spot of how fast the fish should be going while you're working on this. So as my starting point, I know that 10 is probably a good spot. So I'm going to hit play, and there go my fish. Okay? Now, two things are happening. One, they're all falling down, and two, they're going incredibly quick. Okay? So one of the defaults with this is that there's gravity inside my scene. So this nucleus is where the gravity lies. That's where it comes from. So if I go into the gravity here, or into the nucleus here, and I turn gravity off, then at least these things won't be falling down. The other thing is I'm not sure if this is even playing back correctly, because if you look at my frames, they're jumping. Instead of going from 35 to 36, it's going 35 to 45 or something, okay? So they're jumping pretty quick. So I want to right click on my timeline, go to playback speed, and just verify that this is on play every frame. If it's not, then we could have issues. If this is on real time, it may have some issues once we get further into it, okay? For right now, it's not enough to actually cause any problems, but it could. So 10 is way too quick. Let's grab the emitter and set this to maybe 2. Okay, so now this is how fast they're going to go. Now keep in mind, this is all of these fish coming out of here, how fast they're going to go. Imagine that I scaled this up enormous, like this, and then I played it. Now look how slow they're going. Okay, so it really does matter the scale of your scene. If you scale this thing up huge, your fish are going to be moving slower, and you got to really crank this number up to get any kind of result of them looking like they're swimming at a reasonable rate. Okay, so just oops, too much. Just try to find again that sweet spot of where it looks good. Okay, and you won't really notice that until you get your fish in there. But it'll give you a good idea of how fast they're going. Okay, if I bring my fish in and they're huge, I know I need to either scale this up or scale my fish down. Okay, so just stuff to keep in mind. All right, so right now we have on this emitter we have 100 particles per second shooting out of here. That's a lot of particles to be shooting out. So I'm going to set this to 5. Now the reason I'm doing that is because eventually we're going to have 5 fish, or 100 fish per second coming out of here. That's a lot of fish over a few seconds. That's, my scene's going to be filled with it. With all that geometry, it's going to just clog it up. So 5 is a good rate to start. So there we go, something like that. Okay. Now another thing I want to look at is I'm going to grab the particles and go to the attribute editor. There's a whole bunch of stuff inside here. Under dynamic properties, I just want to verify that there's no drag on the fish. What drag is going to do is it's going to slow the fish down gradually. Okay? I don't want my fish to slow down. The idea with these is that if this was a particle, if this was something that's being launched, it would slow down. But our fish is just swimming along, so there should be no real slowing down that happens. Okay, so he's just going to go on forever at the same rate. Awesome. Another thing that I could play with is, what was that other thing? Just so they're bigger and I can actually see them, I'm going to go to shading, and instead of points, I'm going to make these spheres. There we go. And then I can go to my radius, which is up here, shrink this down. There we go. Alright, just so you guys can see it better, there's the fish. Okay. Oh, that's the other thing. So I can also click these. All the fish are coming out basically in a straight line. Okay. So if I grab the emitter and I scroll down to where it says random direction, and I give this a value. Okay, again, it could be 20, it could be 0.1. It all depends on the scale of your scene. You have to play with it. Now when I hit play, you'll see that I have fish going in different directions. Okay, so now let's get an actual fish on here so that we can see what it's going to look like. So I'm going to go and import a fish. Here's my standalone fish. There he is. Okay. Now if I go and grab my fish group and I go to end particles, the way that this works is it's called instancing. So if we go to the instancer here, it's going to allow us to basically take this group of a fish and duplicate it across all of those particles. Okay, that's what it's going to do. So I say, here is the fish that I'm duplicating. Here is the particle shape that I want to go on. And then I just hit create. Then I rewind it. Then I hit play. And we'll see that we don't get anything. Okay? Now, one of the reasons that we're not getting anything is because it doesn't like groups. It doesn't like us to have a bunch of objects inside here that are doing this. Just to verify, it didn't even put my instance object in there. What a jerk. Let's do that again. So it should have at least done something here. Let's add that in here. There we go. Okay, so I had to re-add it. Now we're going to undo that anyway and fix it, but I need to show you why. So one of the things that we're going to get when we do it this way, look at all the fish. They're all moving at the exact same pace. All the fish are doing the exact same thing at the exact same time. So every fish is opening his mouth at the exact same time. Every fin and flipper and everything is moving in the exact same movement. Okay? If this was synchronized swimming, this would be perfect, but it's not. So we need to correct that. So I'm going to delete my instance. That goes away. Also, we can tell by the size of my fish and the size of the emitter, something needs to change. The fish needs to get smaller, or the emitter needs to get bigger. So if I grab my group and I scale this down, all of my properties should go with it. So when I hit play, you can see that nothing's changed. He still animates the exact same way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just my fish. There he is. And I'm going to duplicate just my fish. Okay, so now he's all by himself just like this. Then I'm going to go to my particles. I'm going to go to my instancer. He's there. I'm not sure why they didn't show up last time. Create. Make sure he's still in there. He is. Good. Okay. So now I'm going to hit play. And you'll see that they still come out really big. All right. So one of the things with instancing is that it wants clean geometry. It wants geometry that all of the translates, rotates, and scales are back to their default values. My fish right here his stuff is at 1, but my group is at 0.044. So what that means is that my fish is going to do that, okay? So I'm going to take this guy out of that group by hitting Shift P. So now he's all by himself. His scales are like this. I'm going to go to modify and freeze his transforms. So now these are back to 1, these are back to 0. Now when I hit play, you'll see that they come out at the right spot and the right size. What? They're not swimming anymore, right? And they're not lined up. Look, they're not even like, this is the particle, that's where the fish is supposed to be, and the fish is like off center, okay?
Except like he's a derp fish, because like, I gotta get, like, he's like just derp, like he's a fish.
Yeah. Okay, so what we need to do is fix this fish alignment. So the reason that he is not lined up with the particle is because this fish is away from that origin. So where the origin is at the very center of our world, that's where Maya wants that fish to be. So I move this fish back to where he was. Cool. And then I freeze the transforms again. And now he's perfectly centered. Okay? Right in the center of that thing. Now he's not moving at all. I mean, he's moving, but his mouth isn't opening and closing. His fins aren't flapping. Okay? When we do an instance, what we're doing is we're taking that one fish and copying him all over. We already realized that we can't do it to the group because the group will all do the same thing at the exact same time. So what we need to do is we need to create a sequence. We need to create like a frame animation of the fish doing what we need it to do. So I'm going to again delete the instance, and I'm going to again delete this fish. Okay? So what I'm going to do is find keyframes of this fish, and then I'm going to duplicate that over and over. Okay? So let's say I'm here at frame 1. His mouth is closed, and his back fin is pretty straight. I'm going to duplicate him and scoot him over. Then I'm going to go up a couple frames. Oops. There we go. To where his fin is all the way to the right. I'm going to duplicate him again, scoot that over. I'm going to go up a couple more frames. Now his fin is there, so I'm going to duplicate it. Go up a couple more frames. His fin is on this side, I'm going to duplicate it. And now his fin is back to the center. Oops. And I'm going to duplicate it. Okay? So what I have are basically 5 poses that I've grabbed from this fish. And if I were to play these 5 poses very quickly, it would kind of look like the fish is actually moving. Now it's not going to be perfect. If we were up close to any one of these fish, you would actually see these kind of jittering poses. Now it's not a huge deal because we're not going to be up close. We're going to be kind of far away. Okay? If this was a scene where we did get really close to them, we would have to do more of those. We basically have to have 30 frames or 30 different fish, one capturing each pose, so it would look nice and smooth. Alright, so now I have 5 of these. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to Shift P to unparent them. I'm going to rename them so that they make sense. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to say FishAnim. Dang it, I always do that. There we go. So FishAnim 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now they're labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so it's easier to see what the order is. So I'm going to go to hold down X, grid snap all these fish together, modify a freeze transform, and then all 5 of these fish I'm going to put into the instance. Make sure they're in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Awesome. And I'm going to go up here to cycle and say sequential. And what this is going to do is it's going to basically, for frame 1, it's going to show this fish. Frame 2, frame 3, frame 4, frame 5, frame 6, frame 7, frame 8, frame 9. And it's just going to keep cycling through these fish so it appears that their fins and everything are still moving. Okay? So I grabbed all the fish. I set this to sequential. This is on my end particle. I hit create. Now when I hit play, you can see that they are moving. You can see his mouth is moving and his fins are moving too. Now because we have basically 5 frames for the entire cycle instead of 30, this is going like incredibly quick. Okay, so I need to slow it down a bit. So on that instancer, there is a cycle step. And this is basically how often do you want to step this. So I believe I go down with this. Nope, that was wrong. I go the other way. 5, 9. There we go. Okay, so now if you look, you'll see that the fish are only opening and closing their mouth at different spots. Okay, and what's nice about this is that no fish are the same. I'm sure that they're kind of the same in some, but for the most part, they're not going to look like they're the same. One fish has his mouth open, the next one has his mouth closed partially, the next one has it closed all the way. So every time a fish is born, every time a particle is created, he gets number 1, and then he randomly, not randomly, but in sequence, will get these ones. And then it just loops through for the rest of the life of the fish. Okay? Now, so far we're doing pretty good with this, because now we can have a bunch of fish in here. Now the next part that looks kind of weird is that as the fish are swimming sideways, they're actually just moving sideways. They're not turned in the direction that they should be going. So on the particle, let me fast forward a little bit. On the particle here, I'm going to come down to my instancer stuff somewhere. There it is. And under the aim direction, I'm going to set this to velocity. And so what this means is whatever direction you're going, that's the direction I want you to face. Okay? So now when I hit play, now they're facing the direction that they are moving in, but not really. Okay? Maya doesn't know which direction the front of the fish is. It has no idea that we even have a fish, that we're trying to create this fish look. All it knows is we have geometry that we're moving along particles. So again, we have to go back to our copies here. There we go. And we have to tell it which direction is the front. So right now it thinks this is the front. Okay? Positive X is always the front. So if I rotate this 90 degrees, like that, and then freeze my transforms again, what we'll see is that now they're all going to be facing the correct direction. So whichever direction they're swimming, that's the direction that they'll be facing. Okay? Now here's where I can get rid of these particles. I don't need that anymore. Okay? So I don't need the spheres. I'm just going to turn those off. I'll just put them back to points. There we go. Now here's where it becomes really cool, because we can take this box and we can, instead of having 5 fish per second, we could have 20 fish per second. Okay, so very quickly we can control the amount of fish inside the scene. We can also control the direction they're going. Remember I had that emitter and I changed the random direction right there? Well, I can lower that, so 0.125. So you can see how widespread they're going. If I knock this down and play, you can see now they're pretty much all going straight, with a little bit of variation in there. I could also add other things inside of this to make it even more random. Okay, if I grab the particles and go under fields, there, all of these things here are different ways that we can control how the fish are moving. So we could add gravity to this. Let's say that we wanted the fish at one point just to kind of like drop down. We could do that. We have the technology. So I created a gravity field. Here's a gravity field. Right now it's going to affect everything the same way, so it's just like the gravity we had before. I don't want it to do that. I'm going to go to volume. I'm going to change my shape to a sphere. And what's going to happen is as the fish get into the sphere, they're going to drop down. Okay? I'm going to give myself a little bit more frames just so I can see that. I'm going to rewind, and then I'm going to hit play. So the fish are just swimming along, and then woo, and then they dip down. Okay? Now just the fish that are inside the sphere are the ones that are dipping down. Now I could grab the particles again, go to my fields, add another gravity field, make it a sphere also, and put this here. Now I can make gravity go the opposite direction. I just take the magnitude up to negative 0.9. Okay, so instead of 9.8, I'm saying go negative 9.8, which means go up. So now what should happen is they should hit here and go down, and then hit here and go back up. Okay, And then I could have another one that maybe they don't go 9.8. That's kind of like a lot. It's -4, and this is 4. There we go. That seems a little more elegant. Okay. So we really can control how these fish are moving by playing with a lot of these different settings. Okay. Other ones that are inside here. Let's see. There's turbulence. Okay. And turbulence is basically just a shaker up. The fish is moving this way basically forever. So turbulence will make him kind of move in different directions. So as we hit play here, I'm going to crank it up just so you can really see it. So magnitude goes up. That makes it more powerful. Attenuation is kind of like drop off. If I turn this off, then basically everyone's going to be going crazy. There we go. Some are just turning around and running. There we go. All right. So now they're kind of swimming in and out, doing different things. Okay. That one just went in a circle. What was the other thing?
What does vortex do?
Vortex. It spins them around in circles. Vortex.
Yes, I want to see it. Don't look at me like
Yeah, maybe it's fish being plus.
yeah, right?
So now they're spinning this big circle.
Beautiful.
Oh, that was the other thing. Collisions. Okay. So
Make 'em run.
when we're here, you can see that some of these fish are actually like right on top of each other, literally right on top of each other. They are not colliding with each other. They will collide with other items in the scene, but they will not collide with themselves. So what we have to do is grab the particles, and under collisions, right here, we have to tell it that we want them to self-collide. And now when we rewind and we play, you'll see that there's very few times that they actually will collide. Okay, I'm trying to find one where they do. They're actually being pretty good about it. Nope, that one just hit and then bumped off and then went the other way.
Oh.
He keeps getting hit. He's dead.
Oh.
He's dead.
He's done.
All right, now let's look at some of the properties for adjusting that. So sometimes they still will collide. A particle is a single dot, and that collision is this sphere that goes around it. So the fish might be this big, but the collision sphere is only this big, okay? So if we go down to solver display and we say self-collision thickness, there's that dot. So those dots will collide with each other and push each other away. But if we see a fish head can go right through a fish tail or through another fish head because the dots are not there. So we can take the self-collide width and crank this up. You could even type in bigger numbers. Okay, so something like 3 will make sure that they definitely do not collide with each other. Take that off.
Would they look like they're just hitting each other though, without even hitting each other?
Right. But the point is that they just are more avoiding each other is the idea.
Can you customize that ball, or it can only be a...
It's only a ball.
Okay.
So with this, you can see it's kind of like more erratic. Like this fish here is really freaking out because once he gets hit, he's bouncing off like pinball, hitting all these other ones. So then I have to take this and say, okay, well I either need to lessen the amount of fish coming out, or I need to make this bigger so I have more room for the other fish. So now I have more room, so now I'm going to have less collisions. There's still a couple running away. I think that's my turbulence field is still doing some damage there. Let me just put that down to 1. There we go, that's better. Okay. So now let's say that I had this one fish and I wanted another fish in my scene that looked different. I don't want to do all of that stuff all over again. What I want to do is basically just add it to it, okay? So for now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a we'll create a torus. Sure. And I'm going to shrink it down and I'm going to freeze my transforms on this. There we go. Okay, so there's my torus. So pretend that I have another fish here. I could import another fish. I just don't want to kill my scene. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my particles and I'm going to make a brand new emitter. Okay? Now what we're not going to do is, again, do this whole process over again. I want all my fish to come out of this same spot, so I'm going to delete the emitter that I just created. Now when I deleted it, it left the particles here. So what I can do is have these particles, hold down shift and grab this, emit from this object. Or use selected emitter, that's what I want. Okay? So now these particles will also come out of this emitter. So now I rewind, I hit play, and you can see there's those particles. Now I grab the torus, I put it onto my instancer stuff, instancer, and I have to pick the other particles and then say create. There we go. Okay, so if I had two different kinds of fish, there we go. Now they're both coming out of the same spot. You can see those ones are colliding, so I will grab those. I will say make sure you self-collide. Make sure you scale this up to like 5.
Cheerios.
There we go.
Come on, man. We gotta ruin fun like that. Worst cereal ever made.
Cheerios?
They got fruit one.
There we go. Okay, so I would do essentially the same thing. I would duplicate 5 fish, and then I would have that copy there that I could use. Okay. Now your end result of this is that you're building a little bit of a scene and having your fish swimming through all of these kinds of fish.
Do those toruses abide by the same gravity circles?
No, because those ones are different. Now I can just grab these particles here, control click this gravity, and say fields effect selected. Where are you at? You selected a source, assign to selected. There we go. They changed the name. And then I hit G, and then I'll click that and hit G. So now everyone's going to abide by those rules. Woo! It's glorious.
I love this right now.
Yeah. And then we can always shrink this down. So if it's too many, then we can just shrink this to maybe like 5 fish in tubes per second. There we go. Okay. So ideally, after you're done with this part, you start building your environment, you start building your scene that you want the fish to go through. So some tools for that is start off with just a plane. Okay, figure out where your fish are going to be. Are they going to be like right along the bottom? Or are they going to be a little bit higher up or what? Okay, so I'm going to make this enormous. I'm going to add a bunch of divisions to this. Oops. 200, 100. There we go.
Maya's gonna die.
Maya will not die with that. It's only 60,000, so we're still good. Only. It's not ZBrush, it's not millions. So then I can grab vertices, hit the B key to go to my soft select, hold B down and middle drag, there we go, and then move these up. So now I can create my little environment of where the fish are going to be. Now what we don't want to do is show this. You would never ever want to show this because it doesn't make sense. Where are your fish coming from? They're just popping out of nowhere. Okay? So leave some lead time. Your fish start off, let's say, way back here. Okay? So my fish are swimming at a good rate. I don't want them to go crazy. I may have to give myself some more frames here, like 5,000, just to get my fish down to this side where they're happy and swimming around. Where are you going? Where he's going?
One way, dude. Come on, man.
I know. All right,
Is that
so
Cheerio?
those are Cheerios, yes.
Why the heck are there Cheerios in there?
Come on, man.
It's fish food.
Where are you
All right.
going?
So right here, I want the fish to start basically right here. So when I rewind my playback here, I don't want them to rewind and go all the way back. I want them to start here. So I grab all my particles. Where are you at? There and there. I go to my solvers, initial state, and I say set for selected. And what that means is that when I rewind this, that's the starting point. Okay? So that way I don't ever have to show this. I don't want to show that, like I said. I want to basically show this area. I show this where we have all these fish swimming around. And a Cheerio. Just going over.
Another one.
Okay. Ooh, that was cool. Look at that. He comes right by the camera. All right, and maybe I want to show this too. That way there's a lot of action happening here, so I can show that. And this will help me, again, kind of plan out what I'm doing in my environment. Now, my environment, because it's an N object, it's an N particle system here, I can make my ground an N cloth object, a colliding object. Where are you at? Right here, passive collider. And my fish will actually collide with the ground. That way they don't go through the ground or through one of our mountains. So we rewind, we hit play. And if we saw a fish get close to it, he would definitely not collide with the ground. Those ones already jumped through the ground. Let's see if there's any over here. Oh, that guy was going. There we go. See, he stopped and hit the ground. Okay. And then once we have our environment, then we can texture it. We can add some sand to it. We can add some lights to the scene. Some bonus stuff you could do. Content browser. They used to have a Paint Effects window, but they don't have that anymore. They have content browser. And inside here, under Paint Effects, they have plants. Plant meshes, these things. So you could add these things into your scene too, just to kind of add a little bit of extra something. There we go. Mushrooms. Green bud. There we go. So that might be kind of cool. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm just going to click and drag. Oops. I need to get closer to the ground. What are you doing? There we go. Alright, so there's this weird thing here. And then we can go into this and control some of the properties of it. Okay, so maybe something like that's cool. And then I can convert this from paint effects to polygons. Plenty of divisions, cool. And then I can just rotate this, center pivot it, and just kind of place it in my scene somewhere. Okay, I can also go on textures.com and find pictures of underwater plants, and I can use those in my scene too. There you go. I can duplicate this and scoot it over, rotate it, whatever. Okay, and then you're going to have to decide from here what kind of view you want. So with this one, we're going to be doing a multi-shot view. So it's not... Oh, here's the thing. So what we're not going to be doing is just doing like one camera shot that just moves. We're going to be having multiple cameras. So while you're looking at what the fish are doing, you want to find a couple good spots of things you can kind of show off. Okay? So what I'm going to do is just create a couple cameras. So I'm just going to make a new camera here. I'm going to hit my resolution gate, and I'll set my focal length to, let's say, 15. There we go. And again, I don't want to show that emitter, so I'm going to get over here, and I'm going to set a key and then just go up a little bit. Okay, so I'll go to, let's say, 120. And then I'm just going to pan along and then set a key. And I did not set a key on anything except for my focal length because my hotkeys are still set. There we go. There we go. Okay, so now I hit play, and then I can see my camera moving along. Alright, so that may be kind of boring because my camera really doesn't do anything, so let's change my focal length on this.
Zoom in and out effect. You know, the crazy zoom in.
Yeah.
The ones you love.
And then maybe I'll get a better angle too, because this is like, I picked a horrible spot. There we go. There's so many fish on this side, I don't know why I didn't grab more fish here. There we go. Now keep in mind everything we talked about before with cameras is that we don't want our cameras to go crazy.
You didn't actually change your focal length.
I know I didn't because I didn't set keyframes. I have to break that connection and then set this there.
So are you able to make like a path that the fish can follow? So like if you're trying to like, you know, have a fish.
That's going to be the next step. Okay, so once we have an idea of what these fish are doing, then our next step is that we're going to take our final finished fish and he's going to be on a path that will swim right in front of the camera. Okay, he's going to be like the star of the show. But we have to get this set up first so we know where all of this is. And then the next step is we're going to draw out a path and then attach our fish to that path and have him swim right along it. Okay, so here he goes. That's a pretty cool camera angle there. We see some fish here, really nice. Cool. And then we would create another camera. Oh, I went that way. And then I would just try to find another angle. So maybe from here I'm going to start up top. And it doesn't matter if I start right where that one left off or I start at some other point. It doesn't matter. So here I'm definitely going to try just a different camera focal length. That's cool. Now I'll set a key here. I'll go up to, let's say, 120. And then I'll set a key there. So then I'll preview this one again. Okay, so now I'm kind of swimming with the fish and seeing what all the fish are seeing. Yep. Now one thing that's always going to be something to be on the alert for, on the lookout for, is both of my cameras have default keys. Okay, so what that means is that they're going to ease in and ease out. Okay, the start's going to be soft, the end's going to be soft. When you take these two cameras into After Effects, it's going to slow down your shot because you're going to have these slow spots in there. So any cameras that I ever do, for the most part, we get rid of the ease. We make them linear. Okay, so I grab all the keyframes, I click the Make Linear button, I do the same thing to this other camera. Oops, like that. That way they start and they end. Because what you don't want your camera to do is feel like you're starting to move and you're stopping your move. What we want to do is make it feel like it's a continuous movement. There we go. Cool. Okay, so now we have these really cool shots of where these things are moving, and we have some really cool fish in our scene. So now what we can do, our last step in our animation stuff, is we have to take this fish here. This is our, let's hide this, and hide these guys. There we go. So we need to take this fish group here that's animated, and he needs to actually animate in our scene because right now he's just sitting still. So I'm going to go to my curve tools and go to CV curve. You can try any of these other ones if you'd like. I like CV curve. So I'm going to go to my front view, and if I look at my cameras I can see exactly where they're moving, right? I can see where these two cameras are moving. If I switch to my side view I can see the other camera moving. Okay, so I know about where they're at. So I wouldn't draw something way over here, that wouldn't make sense. So I'm going to start about here, and I'm going to just draw basically a path for my fish. Something like that. Okay. Now he's probably not going to like going backwards, so I'm going to have to transition this a little bit. So I'm going to, oops, turn B off. There we go. I'm just going to move some of these points over so it's not a straight line. I don't want them swimming in a straight line. Fish don't typically swim in straight lines. So I'm just moving all of these over. Like that, and then we'll move these over like that. Cool. All right, so I'm going to take my fish group, I'm going to shift click the path, I'm going to go under animation, I believe they've moved it to, under constrain, under motion paths, and I'm going to do an attach to motion path. Okay, and this will put this fish onto that path and make him follow the path. Now just like the particles, Maya doesn't know what is up, what is front, what is anything. Judging by how our last fish went, the X direction was not the front. We had to rotate it so it was front, but it was the Z. The Y is typically going to always be up, so we'll leave that at Y. And then we hit attach. Then we hit frame so we can see it. We rewind, and we hit play, and there he goes. Woo! It's like a roller coaster. And then if we go to our cameras, hopefully we've lined it up good enough where we see him actually swim by. There he goes. All right, so that was the only time we saw him there. Let's go to our other camera, perspective 2, and see if we see him at all. We need to be shot right up at the end. Dang it. Oh, right at the end. Well, that's cool, though. He swam there. Okay, but here's the cool part, is we have a curve. I can just grab this path and just scoot it down. Okay, and so what that means is he's just going to hit that path a little bit later. I can grab the points still and tweak the points. Oh, there he goes. There he goes. Pretty nice. Okay, so we can tweak this too, and I can look at the cameras and say, okay, this camera is right here. I'm going to do a little split view. Layouts, 2 side by side. This will be perspective 1. I'm going to disable my dynamics for now. I don't need to see the dynamics, so I go to modify, evaluate, N particles. Okay, so now particles are not calculated. They're just like sitting there. All right, so I'm going to go here to about this spot. There's the fish. And then I'm going to grab the points on this, and I'm going to bring those closer to the camera. Where's that camera? It's like way over there. Let me grab all these points and bring it way over there. Okay, this is where we're able to kind of direct exactly what's happening with this fish. And if you have a lot of distance between 2 points and very close distance with other points, the fish will react to that. He's basically trying to keep it even between each point. There we go. So now let's see how he moves here. He just scoots out. So let's grab these points again. Let's scoot it up. There we go. So there goes our fish. Out of view. Now let's look at the other one. Perspective 2. Okay. And right about here we'd want to see him. So if I go in here and I grab the points, I can really bring it like right up against the camera. And then maybe I'll even spin this around. Instead of him going the one direction, I'll have him go this direction. Okay, so he comes up. And they should swim right in front of the camera. I need to pull it back a little bit further. There he goes. And let's pull that up a little bit more here. Maybe pull this a little bit closer. There we go. Okay, so now we get a good sense of this fish inside of our scene. So now he comes up here and then comes around like that. Okay, so we have a couple cool shots with our fish in there that we're really close to. Now we can do other cameras too. Once we have our fish in there, I can even make a new camera that just kind of follows the fish. Okay, so I'm going to go here. There's the fish starting. Let's set this to 20. I'm going to set a keyframe up here, go up to, let's say, 58, and then set a key for the fish. Go up here, where's the fish at? There he is. Set a key there. Kind of find him in the middle. Whoa. I don't know what happened here. My camera's upside down or something.
Can't you just make a camera and link it so like?
I could, but then we end up with this really weird thing where the camera's like locked onto the fish. They don't normally look good. So there we go. There you go. So now we can kind of follow the fish around and do other stuff to it. Okay, your best bet is to kind of move it with the fish. You don't want to lock it on. I'll show you what it looks like when you lock it on. Here's, where'd fishy go? Rewind this. Back here, here. I don't know if you guys have watched MTV ever. We'll just put it right here.
No, 20 years
20 years
ago.
ago, when it was actually MTV.
When you get some music video. You used to play music videos on.
Yeah. Alright, so I've linked this camera to the fish. So now, we have like the MTV camera.
It's a roller coaster.
Right. And you could do it over the shoulder, but it's all the same. It's basically like the fish is locked in, and then we're seeing all this other stuff happen.
I think it's perfect. It looks beautiful.
This camera will make you sick. Okay. Now, if you set it up correctly where all of your cameras are at that 1 to 120 or 1 to whatever it is, if they're all the same, when you go to render this, all you have to do is just add in each camera. So I would say add renderable camera, add renderable camera, add renderable camera. And however many cameras I have, I just add them into this list. I don't need front. And then I would just make sure that my... Oh, I'm in V-Ray. I'm like, why is this different? Just for now, I'm going to mental ray because that's how I set it up. Name.number.extension. And then I would set this up to 1 to 120 or whatever my cameras were. There's all my views. I would change my quality to highest quality, obviously. Turn motion blur on full because we have deformation stuff. And then my last step that I would do after I have my camera set up, I have my lights set up, I have my textures on everything, you know, it's nice and neat. I would go through all of my stuff, turn my dynamics back on. There we go. And then what I'd want to do is cache out my dynamics. Okay? I'm going to get rid of those donuts just so we don't see those. So I just take instancer 2 and hide instancer 2. And the donuts go away. And then these particles go away. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to grab these particles and I'm going to go under the N cache and I'm going to make a new N object cache. And what this is going to do is it saves out all of my particles to the hard drive so that no matter what I do, they're always going to play back the same way. So right now, if I were to do this, you can see the fish are just kind of like staying in place. Once I do this, I'll be able to do that without a problem. So I'm going to go to 200 frames, make sure both these are 200. 1 file per frame is good, hit cache, and there it goes. So now it's going to save out all of my data, okay?
So you gotta run this before you render it?
Correct. Now you don't have to, but what'll happen is, let's say you get to frame 50 and it crashes. Frame 51, if you tried to pick it up, the fish are in a completely different spot. Every time you do something dynamic, it's a little bit different each time, okay? So we have to run this simulation to cache it all out so that it's locked in, so we can't adjust any of it, and then we'll be good. And it doesn't take terribly too long. Now my project is set. Obviously that's a big issue. If you move from computer to computer, you have to link your images and you have to link your cache settings too. So now look how I can scrub back and forth and all the fish are going to do exactly the same thing every single time. Okay, this also gives me the ability to see if there's any fish doing anything wrong that I just want to avoid seeing. So like in Nemo, they had a big bag of fish, and same thing, they did instancing to get all these fish in the bag, but what would happen every once in a while is a fish would like pop out of the bag. And they would have to go through and delete the fish or shoot from a different angle so you didn't see that fish that popped out of the bag. Okay, so it's just part of the fun of dynamics is that we get this random stupid stuff. What else? What else? Oh, if you do want to change anything, like let's say that I wanted more fish, I can go over here and I can crank this up to a crazy number and then hit play, and it won't do anything because they're cached. Everything is locked in now. Okay, so in order for me to change anything, I have to grab the particles again, go up to the cache and delete it. Then I can adjust things, and then I can make my new cache. Okay. So I would delete the cache, change some stuff, preview it, make sure it looks good, make a new cache. Johnny Cash, Tango and Cash. Okay. So when you're done with this, you should have your fish that are instanced, and then you should have at least one of your fish swimming around your tank or whatever it is. Okay. A nice little scene. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Again, it can be just colors. It could be just flat beige for the sand and then some sort of bluish background for water. You could do something like that. You could get more involved and actually try to replicate what it looks like underwater. If you look at...
You still want us to make like 5 different rigs?
No. You just use one. That's all you needed.
Oh, okay.
Underwater... So you can try to emulate these kinds of things like this, where you can see that the coloration drops off and it's a bit darker over here. You could add some coral pieces if you want to model extra stuff to this.
Could we do a sea turtle?
You could add the sea turtle.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, with the fish.
With it.
Right.
Of course we would.
Yeah, it was cool.
They're going to be...
Yeah. So there's a lot of different things that you could add to your scene. Just keep in mind all of those 12 principles of animation, that the key ones really are appeal, make sure that it looks good, make sure that you can see what's happening in your scene, make sure your lighting is good. Don't cheap on the stuff that's required just to get it done, right? I don't know what other there. All right, and then obviously make sure your textures load and all that stuff.
I got one model if you want.
Okay, so that's going to be the rest of the fish project. This week is going to be, today and Wednesday is going to be getting this, working on this.